Well, hello there and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's video is a little bit different because it's more of a technical video in the sense of this. I get asked a lot about textured finishes. I've done videos where I've used baking soda, but people ask about alternatives and other elements. And so I've decided that today we're going to experiment together and we're going to do 5 different textured finishes. We're going to use exactly the same color on all of them. So I've chosen Weathered Wood by DIY, which is a dark color, because I'm going to white wax all of them at the end so that we can see the texture that's created. It's also going to give me an idea of what textures stayed on, what didn't. And so we're going to do this all on exactly the same glass vase. We're going to do it on a slick surface to be able to see which one sticks better, which one works better, which one has some cool texture to it. And maybe they'll all work. Maybe they won't. We'll see. But the one thing that I have done is I made up little labels so that I can stand this behind the label and not get them all mixed up. So keeping me straight, making sure that I'm giving you the right feedback. So we're going to do this with 5 different finishes. We're going to do the baking soda finish. We are going to try, somebody had suggested talcum powder. There's no such thing here in Canada. We don't have talcum powder anymore. It's not allowed. So we have baby powder, which maybe is what was meant, which is primarily cornstarch, but I did buy the baby powder variety. So we're going to do baby powder. We are going to do salt. So I know that there's a product out there called Salt Wash. I have videos using it. It's a great product. But again, I like doing some things that are easy for everybody to access. And so salt is one of them. I have a bit of a coarse salt, not just a straight table iodized salt. So we'll see. We'll see. That may make a huge difference. I also in the shop have cement because I've done some things with cement. So this is just a quick drying cement. We're going to add some to our paint as well. And then because I sell DIY here in the shop at queenbeecreationshome.com, we are going to use the new paint frosting, which I haven't done. But I have it in mind for an upcoming project. So it kind of gives me a heads up. So we're going to do all 5 of these, all using the same color. And we'll see how it goes. So, because I'm most familiar with it, we're going to start with baking soda. So, brand new can. Going to get this baby opened up. Okay, I did have oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay, I have Pinky right here out in front for me so that I knew where it was, and then of course I didn't look where it was. Okay, so you can see this is a really deep, dark gray. So I'm gonna scoop some out, and I'm gonna mix up the colors separately. There we go. Let's put the lid on here. And there it is. I brought it. We're going to add some baking soda. And I got to tell you, I like to just kind of add a little bit of a time, add a little bit at a time, and stir it up until I get kind of the texture I'm after. Now, with any of these finishes, the more you add, the thicker it's going to be. So you have a choice of, am I going to just, paint it on and get a little bit of texture? Am I going to stipple it on? And so I figure that it's only fair that I use exactly the same technique for each of these finishes. So I'm going to use kind of a stippling motion instead of a brushing motion, just so that, again, we can see the different look. So far with what I've added, I've got this nice thick. I'm just adding a tinge more. It's a very technical term, tinge. All right, so I don't want it so thick that it won't stay on, period. And I'm getting covered already. And I'm just using a chip brush, okay? And we are just going to, and this is a stippling motion or dabbing. We are just simply dabbing it on. And I'm going to look to see if I can get away with one coat coverage for each of these so that I don't have to mix up more paint. I can just do one coat. And you can see already, you can see that raised kind of bumpiness. And because DIY paint is a clay paint, it tends to stick well to most surfaces already, right? So we've got that going for us in using the DIY paint, is that it likes sticking. All right, and you can see with that baking soda that we're getting great coverage. That's sticking well. I'm not having any troubles with it. I had more than enough mixed up. All right, so with my last little bit, all I'm going to do is just add a little if I see that there's any places I feel I missed, but I think I got it. So I'm going to set this one off in front of me with its sign in front of it so that I don't lose track of which one it is. I'm going to put the baking soda right in behind it. Okay, so I am going to grab some more brushes and some more spoons and mix up another one or two for us. I'm going to take the paint frosting from DIY, which is a paint thickener. And I'm going to mix it up next because it needs to sit. And in fact, you can mix it up like the day before. The longer it has to sit, the thicker it's going to get. And I don't know, within the frame of me doing this before I head home, how much is going to thicken up before I leave. So whether or not I have to do this now, or I don't know if I have enough time for it to thicken. Anyway, usually you have enough here. Let me just see. Okay, it says instructions and I can't read that small. Okay, I can't read that small, guys, sorry. But my understanding is that you only need a little bit to thicken a whole can, in which case, okay, pop a hole in there. I'm just doing a little tiny section. So I shook the bottle up. Okay, that was maybe half a teaspoon. All right, and I'm going to set that off to the side, and we'll see how that progresses along. All right, so the next thing I want to try is the baby powder. I want to try and get the lid off, though, so I'm not having to shake it out in little powdery bursts here. Especially since this lid didn't come off properly. Okay, baby powder lids are obviously designed not to come off. There we go. When in doubt. Okay, so again, we'll take some scoops of our paint. off to the side. Whoa. Okay, it smells nice. It smells very baby fresh. So our next one. Okay, so it seems to be going on okay. Creating nice stipples, holding its shape just fine. I think the real test is going to be in its drying. So how well it dries and still adheres to the glass once it's dry. And that's why the waxing is going to be such a good test, because we're going to be not only brushing the wax on, but then we're going to be wiping that wax off. And that's going to be the real key, because we want to wipe the wax back. We don't want to be wiping our paint off. So we'll see how that goes. For this one, we're going to try a little bit of our concrete. I'm thinking that I may have to move quickly, because I'm afraid of it setting up too fast. I don't know, but it's a distinct possibility. So I am thinking I don't need very much. Oh, let's just not dawdle. And let's start getting that on right away. And I know that the idea here is that, oh, doesn't everybody have concrete lying around? Really, like that tub of concrete for me, I've had for a while and done multiple projects with it. So I've done the concrete pumpkins. You guys can refer back to that one. And I did some dishes from rhubarb leaves. So I've done all those crafts with it, and still, I'm getting good texture with this, guys. And it seems to be sticking great. So the point being that that tub has been a good investment for me from the standpoint of, okay, and let me put my cement. So it's cement because it doesn't have the stones in it, right? Okay, so cement, done. And I'm going to try, oh, that's not you, that's the cement. So you can see the paint frosting. And I think it would go even thicker, but let's give it a go. Okay, so I can tell that this is going to be not as raised a texture, but I also think that I could have let it go. I mean, that's only been in there maybe 10 minutes tops. So you could let it go thicker, or I mean, you know, sit longer to get thicker if you wanted. But that said, I'm quite enjoying the texture. It's a little bit more rounded of a texture, not quite as spiky. The concrete seemed a little bit spikier. I keep saying concrete, cement. So you can see it just maybe looks a little bit smoother, a little bit more rounded. It's got a little bit of blobs. All right, and let's put that one to dry with the sign in front of it. Now, and for each of these I'm doing you know, roughly kind of two and a bit of these teaspoons for the whole vase. So it's not taking a lot of paint at all, which is fine. Okay, so I'm thinking for the salt one, I should have had just plain table salt, but I've got coarse sea salt. So I'm thinking maybe that's not being quite fair to the salt process. But because I think that these will stick out a little. Oh, I'm getting salt everywhere. I think that they'll stick out a little bit too far. Maybe. Yeah. So that was maybe not a fair test, actually, as I'm saying that. I don't even have table salt at home. So I did look in the dollar store when I was there the other day, and they didn't have it either. So I might have to hit up a grocery store and try this one another time, just to be fair about it. I'm not sure this is going to stick. Okay. All right, so we're gonna put this one aside, the salt one aside, because I think this is my fault, not necessarily the salt's fault. All right, I now have regular old table salt. Thicker salt doesn't work. I don't know, maybe table salt doesn't work either, but I think it's supposed to. All right, so we're gonna try this one. So we still have our weathered wood, same color, and do a couple of scoops, and then we'll try our salt. So again, let me just mix. Okay, that's better. That's gonna go on and stick. Assuming that I don't overdo it. All right, that doesn't need a lot of salt to work, to do that. So one more container, and let's try this one. It's pretty chunky. There we go. Just get a scoop and I'll move it around. Okay, I'm gonna have to add more. You can see already, this just isn't adhering. It's not sticking like the others. So let me add some more paint, because maybe that was a me mistake. Maybe I over added the salt, that it absorbs too much of the liquid. All right. What? I'm just not liking salt in any form. Okay, I'm giving it another go. I'll add even more paint. So I've now used twice as much paint as the others took. Man, even cement didn't harden up like this. saying. Okay, let's try this. Okay, really go light on the salt. I didn't think that I added that much, but obviously I had added enough, but I'm running into adhesion problems with this. Already you can see where it just doesn't want to stick like the others. So already I'm left with so many other options that worked beautifully. Why would I use this? I have added salt on top of wet paint so that I could create a look and a texture as it absorbed liquid. But I haven't added it into paint like this. And I'm stopping. So already I'm seeing this isn't adhering. It's going to wipe right off. And I'd have to add more liquid as it continues to just kind of, this is what I thought the cement would do, to tell you the truth. I thought that the cement would absorb all of my paint before I could finish and would get too much. Okay, I'm gonna go get water and add water to this and see if that helps. I wanna give it a fair shot, even though I'm already not liking it. I'm gonna go get water, I'm gonna give it a fair shot, and we'll try again. The other options were just so easy and so good. I mean, you should see them looking at them dry because this is the next day. They've had overnight already. And, all right, now that was too much water. Let me swish my brush around though because it had a whack of. I want to give it a fair shake here, guys. For each of our glass vases, we are going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to take just an old chip brush with white DIY wax, and we are going to white wax the entire piece. And then we're going to take a lint-free rag and we are going to wipe it back. What we're looking at doing is seeing kind of how well the texture shows up, what kind of texture we get, seeing whether or not any of the textured surface rubs off. So we're looking to see how well it adhered and how much it's absorbing the wax, all that kind of stuff. So you can see this one is the salt finish. That wax is just, it's not moving very much. It's just sticking right down into that painted surface. And we'll see how much wipes back. But I'm gonna do exactly the same thing rather than you watching through all of them. But then I will come back on and we'll take a look at all of them and we will discuss what happened with each, what the painted finish looks like, and which ones I liked, which ones I'd recommend, which ones I would pass on. So I'll be right back. These are our 5 finished painted surfaces and each is slightly different. So this first one is baking soda, and this is the one that I am most familiar with, that I use most often. And it had spikier ridges, so when I was waxing it, some of those fell off. You could sand them down to get a smoother texture, but you can see that we got lovely texture from it. It's got creases and wrinkles, and the wax sat in, but the wax also removed, and it did not remove any of the paint from the surface of the glass. So good adhesion. And again, with that, you can also paint it rather than stippling to be able to get some texture. So still loving that one. The second one, which one's this one? This is a baby, okay, so this is a baby powder one. And I gotta tell you, it still smells like baby powder. This one went on really well. It stayed on really well through the waxing, but you can see that it didn't absorb as much into the painted surface. So it was almost like it felt almost like the paint was sort of sealed already, and it smells like baby powder. So it gives a much softer feel to it and texture. It's got a really cool finish to it. It feels completely different. It feels smooth. It feels like I've rubbed it down, and the texture on it is different than the baking soda. So I have to tell you, I love that. I like this finish also. Now this one is the paint frosting from DIY, and I did mention to you that you could have left it to thicken up even more. So you could have smeared it, created ridges, and created a lot of texture. It is very reminiscent of the baby powder finish. It's got a smoother feel to it because of how I finished it more than anything else. And it stayed on there really well. It didn't suck in the wax as much as some of the other finishes, like these two did. And you can see that. So I could have removed less or more, but I rubbed fairly vigorously to be able to see which finish stuck onto the glass. And this one, no problem. And I think out of all of them, what I like about this one is the versatility, because I could have let it thicken up even more and created even more textural distinction. I waited, maybe 10 minutes and used it as it was. So I've got a little bit more options, I guess. I have more options with this one in terms of creating some of the textural distinction. I definitely see where out of all of them, this is the one that I could use to do some raised stenciling. So love that one too. The cement one, I gotta say, I was surprised. I thought that it would harden up way too fast. I thought that I wouldn't be able to get it onto the glass, and I was a little concerned about how well it would stick to the glass as well. But it did well. You see though, it really had a very dry feel to it before I started adding the wax. And you could see that that wax just went whoosh into that painted surface. In which case, if you wanted a lighter finish, you would not get it with the cement. The cement really absorbed a lot of the wax very quickly. And again, this is a rougher texture and a rougher feel, but I could have sanded down those peaks first had I wanted it to be smoother. So nothing wrong with using this apart from the fact that you gotta go out and buy the cement, and you might not have it lying around your house like I had it lying around my shop. In which case, these two options, you probably have the stuff at home already. This one is a product to purchase specifically, but I like that I have other uses for it. So if I was purchasing it, I could use it for more than just this. Raised stenciling comes to mind, and some other projects. My least favorite is the salt. Now, you saw I was struggling with, I added too much salt and it just lumped right up. The salt started to absorb a lot of the moisture in the paint. When I tried to water it down, it got too gloppy. The last image that you had, when I set that to dry, in fact, all of the salt slid off it. So I took a towel and wiped it down, leaving some of the paint behind on the surface to make it more matte. I mixed up more salt, got a better consistency, and it stuck on. However, This is the only one that when I was rubbing back the wax, it was peeling away. It was chipping away off of the glass. So this one, even now, look, I can take my finger and I could just wipe it all off. This one does not have the same adhesion, and in which case I would not recommend this finish at all. Two of my favorite texture, well, these three are my favorite textural looks. This one I was really impressed with how it looked. I love how it smells, quite honestly. This one definitely is a product that I would have so that I could do more with, like raised stenciling. This is the one to be able to use, or let it really thicken and apply it to surfaces with a palette knife, which is one of the things I've slated to do. So it gives me that versatility. But if I was just looking at doing finishes on, rough finishes on clay pots, on glass ware, to be able to create some textural elements, faux cement finishes, that kind of thing, I would go with one of these two. Very inexpensive, very accessible, likely have it at home, and they both work great, and the adhesion was great. Let me know what you think about this. I hope it's helpful. I get a lot of questions about the textural finishes, and I hope this gave you a little bit of perspective as people are giving you an idea of different things to try. I didn't try everything. Sand is one that comes to mind that I didn't have and didn't do for you, but let me know your thoughts on this if it was helpful, and that's really what I'm hoping that it does more than anything else. If you're looking to create a textural finish, I hope this gives you an idea of what you could use, what you could try, and be able to get some good results without this happening to you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Always looking forward to your comments, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.